I know people fact that it does not file, so
Okay.
without telling myself, it's
I absolutely am okay with that. And I have had people tell me, oh, I took a screenshot of it and then I put it in idle and it didn't file. I need to know that. Because let's face it, none of the classroom management software is really developed to handle code.
Gotcha.
So a lot of times when we transfer test banks from a textbook into Coursestan or Moodle or other things, some of the formatting is just lost. And sometimes whole lines of code just disappear. And
Let me ask you this, is that if you notice something like a implementation error on that, when the question asks, what does this return? What does this print?
you may
The
have
answer
to,
is nothing.
you may have to ignore an indentation problem.
That's weird.
But like I said, I want to look at them. I definitely want to look at them because I want to take them out of rotation if they're a problem. And I definitely will give you credit for them if it's
Because
my
the
error.
right answer was not there. I think I kind of felt,
Yeah.
felt like
So in the case of where you think the answer is not even remotely there, my suggestion is to screenshot it, email me, and then make your best guess is what you thought I was asking you for the time being. But if it is a wrong question and the answer is not actually there, I will go back and for everybody that had that question, give them credit for it because it's not their fault. They couldn't choose an answer that wasn't there. But if you guys don't tell me, I don't know it's wrong. Because
well, the confusing part on mine is it was actually not supposed to be, it was supposed to have an error no matter what.
right, it was supposed to have an error, but you
But there,
didn't see one. Gotcha.
I think it was even supposed to answer, it was supposed to be an error, or just nothing.
Right. And that, like I said, we will go definitely look at it.
Okay.
Speaking of that, the only way I can pull up the tests and look at them question by question. Actually, I can't pull them up by question, but I would have to go through each question in the question bank until I found the one that was yours. Or I can go to individually into your questions and fix them, but I don't want to pull up anybody's test and put it on the big screen because that's not fair for everybody else to see your grade.
Well, okay.
There's privacy issues. But so I will absolutely say that it would not be the first time, nor would it be a surprise to me if you found a question or two in this test that had an error in it because it's pulled from a question bank. I have found errors in the question bank in the past. So feel free to send them to me. You will not annoy me. You will not make me think you're questioning my authority. You will not hurt my feelings. If you don't tell me, I won't ever find the error and somebody else is going to get it. I absolutely will give you credit back for anything that is my fault. Or if I feel that the question is correct, I will give you an explanation on why it is. Does that make sense? I try to be as fair as I can about that sort of thing. I am human. You've all seen me type. I guarantee you there's typos and things that I've had to create and correct. So, and like I said before, trying to put code into an online test is an exercise of frustration for all of us doing it because the Coursestan stuff wants to auto capitalize lines for me, wants to tell me that punctuation's in the wrong place. It wants to tell me I've got spelling mistakes. It doesn't want to do the tabs correctly. So I feel your pain. Believe me, just send me the mistakes.
Oh,
Because if it's a mistake for you, somebody else may not have realized it was a mistake, still missed it, and now they're going to get credit for it because I'm going to give everybody credit for it that took that question. Yeah,
is class average on that not a little low?
I haven't looked at the class average on it, honestly.
Okay.
What is class average?
78.
Yes, that's way low. So I need to check that test.
Yeah.
So absolutely, maybe I need to do some checking on the test. I haven't had a chance to look at the statistics on it. I meant to, but
76.
haven't done it yet. I do have to say that there are quite a few students that haven't used their get out of free test card, the drop one yet. So some students may not have taken it, which would make the average drop. Most people though, by this point are saving it where they don't have to take the
I'm
final.
gonna say, wouldn't that mean you're through the final?
Yeah,
Okay.
You can absolutely drop the final if you're happy with your other 3 test scores. Just want to put that out there for everybody.
What's the final?
The final is going to be like every other test. It's mostly going to cover, the majority of the questions are going to be lists and files because those are the last 2 topics that weren't on the test you just took. Yeah. So oddly enough, it's going to look a lot like the test you've already taken because it's just going to pull questions from the same
I
test.
didn't agree on that one the last, so I'm able to take the final. So,
Yeah. The final is not meant to be any harder than the test you've already taken because everything we take in here builds upon itself anyway. So the final mostly is just the new material that wasn't on the test you just took. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the test you just took should have been given to you a week earlier. I just,
Do you have a test on biology?
files will be on the final. And the chapter directly before it lists, they'll be on the file. So, honestly, I'll go pull the final up to the last week of class while we're doing optional stuff and try to refresh my memory and your memory and what's on it. Because it's the same final as I gave last semester. That being said, let's go look at, I have our code up here. So again, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm doing mine in the create negative image py file. So if you're looking at the file name, just ignore that. I just realized I didn't bring one with me. So in the 5 minutes while y'all were coming out of class, I just rewrote it in the negate file. Just ignore that. And I didn't move the main, it's still at the bottom because like I said, I just recreated this in the last 5 minutes while I was sitting here. Some people like to have the main at the bottom. I like it at the top, equally correct in either place. See what makes you happy at this point. So we did red, green, and blue. I left you on your own devices to do prompts. One of the things the prompt command or thing tells you to do is to check to make sure that it gave you a valid piece of information. That's the hardest part of the prompts. The validation to make sure that it gave you red, green, or blue and it didn't give you garbage. That you can use a while statement to keep looping until you get correct things. That's one of the easiest ways to do it. But I don't really want to write it for you. I kind of want you to do it yourselves. I kind of need to check some stuff that I promised you I'd check already and I didn't. I legitimately forgot, so send me an email before you leave class to remind me what I'm checking. Thursday in class, or the next time I videotape, I will have more time, or we'll spend more time helping you do that validation if you're still stuck. But I'd like to challenge you to work on it on your own.
On Thursday,
Between now and Thursday, I'm going to get better at it. And it's not. It's just been a really rough week for me. I think I slept 2 hours last night. So insomnia is a bad thing to have. Just saying. So we wanted today to concentrate on getting you guys started on part 2. Correct? So part 2 wants you to add yellow, magenta, and cyan. Now, if you already have red, green, and blue working, yellow, magenta, and cyan are just more if statements inside of create wash, right? Does that make sense? And if you remember from the PowerPoint, I guess I should have opened that and I forgot. I gave you this color chart, right? So in this color chart, it lets you see what different colors are, but this is the one I want you to pay attention to for part 2. So if we're looking at this and we're looking at yellow, yellow is all the red and all the green and none of the blue. Well, blue was no red, no green, all the blue. So if we take this number, what would we have to change over here? So I'm gonna grab this and I'm gonna copy it. And now this is gonna be yellow instead of green. Okay. Right? Oh, I have typos. It happens. Oh, I did it on all of them.
That's how copy and paste works.
It's amazing how copy and paste works, isn't it? All right. It may have still ran that way, but just for giggles, I'm gonna get them all the same. So when I copy and paste again later, I won't. So if this is yellow, and I just told you yellow was all of the red and all of the green. So I still need pixel.getGreen, and I need pixel.getRed, right? So I still want all the green, and I still want all the red that pixel originally had, but I want to get rid of the blue. You want me to make that bigger where you can see it? Oops. So does that make sense? Did y'all follow the logic of what I did to change it? Would you have come up with that logic on your own?
Say it again real quick. Just
Yes, sir.
I did the same thing, just turned the whole thing green.
And the whole thing green?
Like it just made it a shade of green, not actually yellow.
Well, okay, let's check it. How about that? Loading process. Where's loading process? I don't have the stuff you guys have for the prompts in this file, so I want to just test it the hard way. So if we run it, it didn't do anything. Why didn't it do anything? 41. Okay. I hate it when my code doesn't work. Oh. I had variables mismatch. So yours didn't turn out looking like that? We just a yellow. Do it. It did?
No, I
Really agree. Okay, I will come look at yours individually in just a second if you got it with you. All right, so When I say it's gonna be yellow, it's gonna be tinted yellow, but it won't be like, the red and the blue is much more obvious, right? Because you got rid of everything but red or everything but blue. The yellow, magenta, and cyan are gonna give it a tint because it's two colors mixed together. So the logic on that is you need to figure out the two colors that make up the extra colors. So you need two colors for cyan, two colors for yellow, two colors for magenta. You're going to keep those two colors and get rid of the third color. Does that make sense? I see some nodding. I see some people hiding behind their screens. Okay, so that's a good chunk of part 2. One thing that is a little trickier is this black and white. Because in black and white, you have to decide whether to make the pixel black or the pixel white. So there's not any of that's necessarily keeping or getting rid of one specific color. It's am I going to set it all to zeros or am I going to set it all to 255 for that particular pixel? So I want to talk through the logic of this. Anybody have an idea how you might go about picking out whether you want the pixel to go black or white? Yes, sir.
Lightness of the color.
Right. So it has to do with how bright or how dark that color is. And how would we know if the color is edging toward bright or edging towards dark? Yeah.
If it's less than half the number, they'll be lightness of the.
So yeah, we want to set a threshold amount, and if it's over a threshold amount, we want to set it to be brighter, because white is 255, 255, 255, so we're going towards the high numbers. If it's below the threshold amount, we want to go lower. 50% is a good place to start. Some people tweak it, go up and down just to make it look prettier, but yes, 50%. But before we can do that, do we want to do 50% of each color? Or is there a simpler way to do that? And that's a trick question because I wouldn't have asked it if there wasn't a simpler way to do that. All right, so the best and simplest way to do this is to get the red, get the blue, and get the green, add them together, and then average them, right? So then you have an average number for that pixel. And then you can pick a threshold. And if the average is above it, make it white. If it's below it, make it black. It's going to be black or white. So you'll set the new red, green, and blue to 255, but all 255 if it's a high number. If it's a low number, you're going to set it to 0 because we're talking 0, 0, 0 is black. So if I took a pixel and say it had 200 red in it, 200 green in it, 200 blue in it, then that's a pretty bright color because it's edging towards being solid white. I want that one to be white. But if I had a pixel that only had like 10 blue, 15 red, 20 green, that's edging towards being very dark, so I wouldn't want to change that pixel.
You're talking about every single pixel.
Every single pixel. Now this is not as hard as it's, you just gotta use those loops that we've already been using to change pixels. So every single pixel has to be checked, and a value has to be created, and then it has to be checked against that threshold and set to black or white.
Yeah, this is difficult.
It's really, it's tricky, but it's not difficult. So, what do you think? Should I just let you write this on your own, or should we try to start writing this now?
How does this fit in if we don't have part 1 finished? Is there just no mess with anything?
It's just a new function. No, it's just a new function. You can copy the code and fix it right as a separate function, and it'll be fine. Also, you'll see in part 2, it's got some more for your prompts to check. So if the prompt is in all caps instead of all lowercase, but that should be a very simple fix for you. If you just remember your string functions, when you read your user input in, you can just use one of your string functions to force it to be all lowercase or all uppercase, whichever you use in your code, and then pass it in, right? So if they use a mixture of letters, that still sets it all to lowercase. If they use all uppercase and you need it to be lowercase, it still sets it all in lowercase. So that's not that step is not as hard as the directions make you think it is. That's just you having to remember how to use your string functions to force the case to be where you want it to be. Now, spell checking, there's not an easy fix for that. So let's work on this black and white a little bit. So what it tells you to do is you want to add a new function. So this is going to be a function all of its own. I'm going to call it black and white. Actually, I'm going to leave the and out because I want to. And it needs to take an image or the image where I can copy and paste. And it doesn't need a color because it's going to black and white, right? So all it really needs is an image. Put some blank spaces in where we can see what we're doing. So I still need to create a new image that's empty, and I still need this double loop, right? I'm going back to negate because I haven't changed any of it. I'm going to basically go copy all of the negate and work from there. Unless that confuses you. Would you rather me write code?
Same code we have under the create negative.
If you got create negative image in your file, which you should because we copied and pasted it. If you grab all of it, all the way through the return, copy and paste. When my mouse disappeared. All right. And then this stuff in here is what's going to change. Oops. So these 3 lines are going to change. So we know that we are going to need a new green, a new blue, and a new red, but we're not going to calculate this way because it's only going to be 1 or 2 values, right? What we do need to do is get the current red, the current blue, the current green, add them together, and divide them by 3, right? So we're coming back to these lines, but we're going to get rid of them because this is not the code we need here, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get average. And that's going to be the pixel dot get red plus pixel dot get green plus and you don't have to put it on 2 lines like I just did, but I was doing that to make it where it's readable for everybody. So I'm going to get the green, the red, green, and the blue, and I've got parentheses around that, and I'm adding them together with in parentheses, right? Can you make it bigger? Can you see it? Okay. So that's the reason there's a parentheses here and here's because I want to do the adding before I do the dividing, right? And then I'm dividing that by 3. That gives me the average color. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to create myself an if statement. If get is less than some number we're going to come up with. So if we average those 3 numbers together, what would be the midpoint? Yeah, it's a math thing. So if you got 255 plus 255 plus 255 divided by 3, the highest average is still 255, right? What's half of 255? So let's go 128. Because I rounded up instead of down. I'm gonna go 128. How about that? Now, this may not turn out to be the number we want to use because we may decide we want more light than we do dark. You know, I'm not grading you on whether or not you use this exact number because some of my students like to play with it until they get a clearer, sharper image, and that's fine. Because really, if you were doing this in real life, you would be doing grayscale anyway. Instead of trying to get all my indents right. So if it's that, if it's less than, leaning towards the dark, what do we want our new red, our new green, and our new blue to be? 0. Otherwise, we want these to all be right. Does that make sense? So we have our for loops. We get an average, and then we use an if statement based on that average on how we want to change them. Have I blown anybody's mind yet? You're all going, I would have never thought of that, but it makes sense when I see it. Yes?
Closer to that.
Remember way back in the first week of class when I said I could teach anybody to code, but teaching you how to think through the problem is the hard part. This is where we're getting to that part. I'm hoping that things are starting to get clearer on how to break things down into problems and thinking your way out of the issues. Questions so far? Want to test it and see if it works? Yeah, I do too. So I'm going to go up here to my, well, maybe to my load. Up here where I was testing, right? And I'm going to get rid of all my, or comment out my other tests. And I'm going to do is going to be equal to and I'm going to tell you right now, it may not be perfect and we may do some tweaking. So don't freak out if it looks weird. May not be as pretty as the example there because we haven't played with it yet. So now if I run it, hopefully I don't have any typos in it. Suspiciously didn't do anything. But I don't have any typos. So let me go down here and see if I left something out. Yeah, I didn't do anything. Image. No, I mean,
No error or anything.
So at this point, I'm gonna put some print statements in because I just need to see how far it got. All right. Okay, so it's getting the averages. See them scrolling by really fast? That's how many pixels there are in this picture?
Can you go any faster?
No,
How many pixels are you thinking of in there?
a lot. Millions.
I'm not
Megapixels?
gonna try that on this computer. I'm just
Don't-
gonna-
Yeah, I wouldn't put that, don't put that print statement in yours.
And we're not doing this today.
Cause I'm getting bored with this too.
Kind of see, does that not look like it's repeating and all that?
Yeah, some of them are probably repeating.
Repeating.
Oh, no, it's moving. You just can't see it from where you're at. So. Yeah, no, you're not responding.
Can you blame me?
I might have broke it. Okay, we're gonna make it stop. So it does get here. Let's get rid of that print statement.
How long is it gonna run?
I don't know. I really don't. It depends on what the resolution on those pictures were. Why did it not change these things and put them in here is the question. Oh, because I'm stupid. I had it printing the original image again. It was probably doing something, but I put the wrong variable name in and I was drawing the original image instead of the black and white image. Look, even your professor makes silly mistakes. Doesn't that make you feel better? Makes me feel really stupid that I did all that over a typo and when I called it, did it wrong. All right, so this is what mine looks like with using the halfway point. This to me is the perfectly acceptable black and white image. It looks enough like the old one that I can pick it out. If you want to tweak it and play with the numbers, you can, but I will caution you that if you get one picture looking really good, your next one that has a different color tone to it may not look as well. Because a really dark picture, when we do this kind of black and white, is going to go mostly black, and it's going to be, I think the moon picture is a good example of that. So if we try this with instead of Infinity War down here, if I put moon in here, you get a much different kind of feel to the picture because the moon picture started off very blue. So you get a very black. Does that make sense? This is why they use a more complex way to make pictures. We actually do grayscale when we're talking black and white.
Is that kind of how filters logic work?
Yes, this is very simplistic filter logic. Yes. The very simplest of filter logic. Are we good? So I've got a good chunk of part 2 for you again. If you
You have, but I've got so much stuff like commented out and in and.
absolutely.
I'm not sure what we're doing.
So that's a good point. Some of you
I'm
are
trying to follow.
following along with me just as fast as I'm going, and that's great. Some of you are not. That's also great. If you have a lot of stuff commented out and you're confused, please send me an email or come by my office and let me straighten you out individually, one-on-one. I've already had one person email me their code, and I took it and I went, got all the right pieces, they're not in the right places. I took their code because they sent me the PI file, and I edited their code and moved the things around and put comments next to it. That's what I did. And then that way they could go and compare it to their file, or probably just copy and paste my corrections into their file. But I did give them explanations for why I changed it.
You have time to do that.
Right now, I only have one or two people even bothering to ask me questions. If it gets to be where I have 400 emails a day, then I may not spend as much time on it. Or if I think your code is severely flawed, I'm going to send you an email saying, hey, I think we need to talk through this logic again. Do you have time for a Google Meet or an in-person meeting where we can sit down and go over your code? And I'll happily jump on virtually or have you come in my office and sit down at the table and we'll go through code. Jonathan's done it with me before. The two young ladies in this class have done it multiple times. So feel free. I am in my office from 1:30 to 3:30 almost every day. Like yesterday, I left a little early because I had a dentist appointment. But if you tell me you're coming, I'll be there. If you don't tell me you're coming, I most likely will still be there. Because I have posted office hours. So there are a few rare occasions that I have to leave early for a doctor's appointment or something, but those are fairly rare because I try not to schedule them during my office hours. But, you know, dentist appointments, you schedule those 6 months out, you don't necessarily know what your semester looks like. All right, questions for me? Yes, sir.
So when I run the program, it opens to.
Okay, I will come look at yours. That means you copied and pasted something twice, probably, but I'll be happy to come look at it.
I don't think mine runs at all.
You don't think you're running off? Okay. Is it an individual question or something good for the greater good of the whole class? Okay. All right. So I'm going to cut off the video here. I am going to stay in the classroom with you until the end of class. So we have a good 15, if I'm looking at that clock right, at least 15 minutes or so that I'm going to be here, maybe 30. And I'm going to come around and everybody that has an individual question, I'm going to try to get you set up and going. Jonathan, I'm going to bounce back and forth with you several times.
Yes, you will.
And let me turn this video off. Please, if you have questions, come see me, watch the videos, call me, send up smoke signal, somehow get in touch with me. Don't just sit there stuck. Because I have